Good morning, this is Penny Ferguson, a living leader. I want to share with you something that happened this week that really impressed me. I took my son for his birthday to Hampton Court, where we had an amazing dinner in the fabulous sort of palace dining room there, and then watched Michael Ball and Alfie Boe. They were incredible. However, at the dinner, you sit at a table where you meet lots of other people. And the guy who was sitting next to me, somebody called Ian G. Smith, really impressed me. When we had very young people serving us, and so there were 8 people who came round, sort of doing everything at the same time on your table, and he made a real effort to talk to the person who was serving him. Whether it was bringing him his meal, whether it was pouring him wine, whether it was pouring him water, he talked to him, he spoke to him, he found his name. By the time we left, he'd found out practically his history, but he showed real interest in him. And when he left, he thanked him so much for making his evening more enjoyable by the way he served. Now, he didn't do this in a way that sort of said, tick the box, I need to be nice to people. He did it because he really obviously cared about people and wanted them to know he cared. Now, when I'm running a program, I nearly always, when we get to a particular point, ask people, and I say, tell me, how many people that you employ go home at the end of every day feeling valued? And there is nearly always a complete silence, because they know very well that most people in their company don't go home at the end of every day feeling valued, probably not even their people in their team. And I think that we're so, educated. I don't know if it's everywhere, but in this country, even from very young, and I know it applied when I was bringing up my children, I would notice the things that they didn't do well and tell them, so that I could help them put it right. But I didn't tell them often enough the things that I really saw that I thought were lovely about them. It didn't matter if it was something they did or it was just something, the kindness they showed to somebody else, the attention, the way they listened to me, the way, it didn't matter what it is. It just didn't happen. Hi, Lisa. Good morning. And it was just really interesting to see how it gave people a really big shock when I asked them that question. And yet, when you think about it, you think how good you feel when somebody notices something about you that's nice and tells you. If it's something that you do that's nice, it could be that you listen well to people. It could be that you really show interest in people. It could be so many different things. But how many people then notice it and tell you? Because if somebody does tell you, guess what? You want to do even more of it next time. You think how if somebody says to you, oh gosh, Pen, I just want to say the way you handled that situation, you showed real patience and you were really kind, even though the person was taking a long time to think it through. You really were kind to them. Now that makes me think, wow, that's something that's valuable and it's been noticed. So I want to do it again next time. Now think of all the people that you cross and you meet every minute of your life, and you probably don't even notice them. I reckon most people, if they go to a restaurant, and when they get served by the waiters or waitresses, so somebody comes in and move your plate and they just move a bit to the side and keep talking to whoever they're talking to. And if you said to them when they left, could you describe your waiter or waitress? I bet they wouldn't be able to. Do you notice them? Do you say to them, thank you for looking after me well, I enjoyed it? Do you show any interest in them so they go home feeling, hey, I've done a good job and somebody's noticed? When you go to a supermarket and you get people serving on the till, how often do you really look at them and talk to them and say to them, thank you, and you really were helpful, or whatever it happens to be? And I think that if we could really begin to focus on that this week and think, how can I help everybody whose life I touch go home at the end of today feeling valued, feeling appreciated? Because the impact that can have is phenomenal. It's not just on that individual. They're feeling better about themselves. So when they go home, they probably treat their partner and their children better because they're feeling good. And then the children, because they've had a really good evening with mum and dad, probably go to school feeling happier the next day. The impact can be amazing. And I just wanted to share this because it really impressed me. I don't often see this, and I was just blown away by how much care and attention he gave to that young boy, who I am sure thought, wow, I feel good. Somebody's noticed that I'm doing a job that I care about and I want to be really good at. And it was lovely. So that's my thought for you for this week. Really, really think about, who can I appreciate? Who can I tell this week that I value them? There's a couple of things that I think is quite interesting. Quite often there's people we take for granted, and that can be our partner. And how often do we tell them that we value them? And I don't just mean, darling, I love you, or whatever, but really saying, this is what is really special about what you've done with me today, or whatever. How many people value their bosses? I quite often think that one of the most lonely jobs of all is being a CEO, because people have very high expectations of you, but how often do they tell you when you're doing something well, or you handled a meeting well, or you, I don't know, listen to somebody incredibly well, you demonstrated real leadership behaviours. It doesn't matter what it is, but how often do you appreciate your bosses? So I hope you found that really useful. I know that I've had a couple of other things that people want to talk to me about. So I will share those in the next couple of weeks. But please don't hesitate. If there's anything at all that you think, Penny, I'd really be interested in your thoughts about whoopity whoop, whatever it happens to be, please share it with me, because I will then do my best to share my thoughts. Don't ever hear me say I'm right, but what I will share is my thoughts and maybe the efforts I make to be that sort of person. So I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful week. This is Penny Ferguson, a living leader.